Hello Minori, this is Nicolas Baldeyrou from Paris, France. Thank you very much for sending your video, and I'm very happy to review it and doing this online masterclass. So, Françaix, of course, is a very big masterpiece of the 20th century, and as a French clarinetist, I love it very much. So I'm really happy to listen to your performance, and I suggest that we go now. Thank you very much. That's a very nice start. So, the first thing I want to talk about is about air support. Because when you begin the concerto and when you do la papi, we have to get a very equal line and some very equal staccato. And now I feel that the staccatos are not very accurate like this. And that's only because of air support. Never forget that staccato is exactly the same way of blowing than a singing legato. For example, I do very often this exercise. And then I add the staccato with exactly the same amount of air, the same speed, and the same embouchure. And then you get a very equal staccato and a very nice phrase. Okay? The second point, which is very important, is about making wrong accents. Now I hear ta-ta-ti, ta-ta-ta-ta, like if you are doing a diminuendo on the F and then you start again. You should always continue to blow on the long notes. Yam pam pim pa 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 pom. And then you don't get this feeling of accent when you re-attack the E. That's very important. Okay? Then the rest of the phrase is very good. You should just be very careful about intonation on the very low F sharp. Because of course F sharp is a quite flat note normally if you don't hold the embouchure enough. And here also you have this kind of crescendo going to the F sharp, so it's even flatter. So of course don't forget to hold your embouchure, have a very tiny whistling embouchure, okay? Do not overblow, because if you overblow, put too much pressure, it's going even lower. And then when you reach the notes, don't forget that the end of the phrase is a release. Okay, so make a direction to the F sharp, but don't force, and then let it go. Okay, let's go on. Very nice. So, the next attack is on D. D is always a little bit sharp. So you have to be very accurate. I mean that if you want the D not to be too high, you should of course have the same tiny whistling embouchure I was talking about before, but you should also have a lot of speed of air coupled to a very low tongue position. Okay, that's very important. If you just don't put enough speed of air, it's going to be even higher. Okay? You should really hear the notes before you play it, and then you will correct faster if you need. Okay? And then we should talk about this high F sharp. Of course, it's always a very bright note. It's very high. It's kind of aggressive also. So don't force. and try maybe to find a lower, flatter fingering. Yours is not bad, but a tiny bit sharp. I would rather use the full F sharp like this with key number 3, the key of the low F sharp for correction. And then you will be able to play a little bit less like mezzo forte, which is plenty enough, and you will have a perfect intonation. So don't forget this fingering to play in a softer dynamic. It's very useful. I use it very often in many situations. Okay? And the last detail is about how to manage the grace note. Don't forget that the grace notes are the most important. Okay? If you don't play them for real, then it will not be clear like it was. It was a little bit too fast and you didn't put enough air on the grace notes. So don't forget to play them for real. Okay? Let's go on. Okay, thank you very much. The next passage is quite tricky because you have these big intervals, you have a lot of delicate articulations. So let's be very clear first about how to do this very basic G major scale. It's not so easy because you have this very high F and then you have to go down in a quite big interval. So the first tip I would give you is not to stick everything together. Do it like all tenuto. It's absolutely not tenuto. It's divided by 2 like this. And if you want the public to listen very clearly to an articulation by 2, you should always make the second note a little bit less and a little bit lighter and shorter. And then we will hear a very clear separation in between. So it will be better for the public and also better for you if you make a little bit more separation. You will have more time to articulate again and to be in a better position. Okay, so always by 2 and a little bit diminuendo and the second note little bit lighter. Then, when you have these big scales going to the high register, you should be careful about dynamics. Because when you go in the high register, it's always sounding like a crescendo because it's physics. I mean, it's made like that. On the clarinet, when you play in the high register, it sounds big and a little bit aggressive sometimes. And when you play in the low register, nobody hears anything, okay? That's why conductors are always asking for louder when you play a solo in the medium-low register, and always it's too much for the high register. So we have to compensate and to deal with that, okay? That means that when you do, you have to make the accent and then play quite focused with a lot of speed and quite loud. And when you go up, you can just release. And it's also working very well with the harmonies because it's a release in the harmony. So always when you get this, try to make kind of decrescendo when you go high. Okay? And it will be exactly the same for the next one. Okay? And the end is almost piano. Good. Let's continue to this difficult passage. Yes, this is a tricky passage if you don't do everything right. I mean that I'm hearing with too much pressure. In the high register, you need, of course, a much more opened throat. Okay? I mean that just about physics, we need less pressure in the high register. So if you want less pressure, you need a bigger volume here. So you need more space, more opening, of course a very low tongue position, okay? And please do not overblow. And if you do all these three aspects, then it will be absolutely easy. Okay, so I would say not more than mezzo forte, it's plenty enough, and just think about opening low position, it will be enough. Oh, very good, but at the very end, it's clearly written in the music score in tempo, okay? And you did a ritardendo. My question is why? Okay, so trust the composer. He writes everything he wants. I mean, it's such a clear score. You don't have to do something else or to do some more informations. Absolutely not. Believe him, respect the text. That's it. And then you get this incredible contrast with the next section. Okay? And before it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, all the scales, arpeggios were very clean and very smooth. Bravo. I would just make maybe a small recommendation for the last C sharp, because as it's written, it's pianissimo, so we have to be careful about intonation. It's getting very easily too sharp here. That's why I use a special fingering, which is an open fingering with just first finger here and register key only, no thumb, it's useless. Like this. So it's very easy, and then intonation is not too sharp. So it's a good fingering to remember. Very good. Let's go on. Thank you very much. I like it. I mean, there's many good things, like very good singing from your part. It's very interesting. But the first detail I'm noticing is about dynamic. Because as you can read and as you can see, it's written dolcissimo. So dolcissimo is of course a color, very soft color. But it's also dynamic. Okay, it's difficult to be very soft if you are too loud. And what I hear now, it's like a very comfortable mezzo piano, mezzo forte sometimes, and it should be pianissimo, I'm afraid. So you should maybe practice again all this passage, but clearly in a very soft dynamic. And it will change completely the atmosphere and the color, which is exactly what Françaix is waiting for us. Because you have this crazy part before, a lot of notes, very brilliant and very technical and blah blah blah. But then we have this singing part, which is also difficult, but it should sound easy, smooth and soft. Okay? So don't forget that. The second thing is about intonation. Because we are much softer, of course intonation is getting sharp, so we have to be very careful, especially on the attacks and especially in the left hand. That's why all your fingerings of the left hand must be fully covered. For example, the first F should be with the third finger like this. Do, okay? Then when you have G sharp, all fingers. When you have A sharp, B flat, all fingers. And also when you have this tricky D, but also when you have this tricky D sharp, which is always a sharp note, it's exactly what we said in the beginning for the D. Small embouchure, whistling embouchure, low tone position, and a lot of speed of air to have a correct intonation. Okay? Then we should talk also about intervals, because we have many big intervals, and especially big intervals going to the high register. And you play every normal fingering, which is absolutely correct. But you can improve the legato a lot, practicing the slide of the first finger, like this. The goal is to synchronize the right hand with the slide of the left first finger. Okay? So then you are able to have big supports and a very smooth legato together. As you can see, the 3 times I was using the slide of the finger. So you need practice, of course, because if you never did it, it's a new movement to learn, and you have to practice synchronization with the right hand. But it's very useful when you have time. You have to use it all the time to improve your legato. It's very, very important technical point. Okay? And the very last thing is about directions and shape of the phrases. Very often you were avoiding the good points of direction. For example, when you reach this place, the most important point where you can find the most tension is the high A. And then you are able to make a release. And you are just doing the opposite. And it's exactly the same thing the first time. Okay, so try to make a direction to the high A, and then you have enough energy and dynamic to make a diminuendo and a nice release. Okay, let's go on to the next section. Okay, that's a very nice section, bravo. Just a few details. About the beginning, don't think it's just technical and just like a study. We have to add another level of phrasing. If you look carefully, you have re, re, mi, re, re, with this chromatism of the low notes. That's very important. And if you do that, you just follow the harmonies of the orchestra. So always try to make a direction to the second bar and then release. It will be much more interesting with this shape, as just if you just do that, it's not so interesting. Okay? Then of course we have to practice all. I mean, me also, this La dièse, A sharp, G sharp is always tricky. That's the thing I'm always practicing in the Jean-Jean exercises in the Vademecum. I don't know if you know it, it's a very good exercise book. And this synchronization is always tricky, but you have to practice it daily. And here is a very good example of the use of this exercise. So don't forget to do that and take time. Don't rush to the G sharp, to the third note. Always take time to correctly do the synchronization. That's very important. The rest was very convincing. Bravo. Let's go on. Very good. I'm stopping quite often because there's so many informations and it's so difficult. So I want to say absolutely everything to you so you can practice in the right way. In this place, you have to be careful about not being too aggressive on the high notes. Because the top note, I mean the most important note, is the C, not the E flat before. And of course the E flat is higher, so it's sounding more. It sounds almost like an accent, and I don't want to hear I want okay? So don't force your E flat, just open a lot, just blow gently, be very smooth, it will be enough. And always think about the C, and the same, the next one is the same. Do, mi, sol, mi, do. Okay, so E is not so important. It will come anyway, and it's always sounding too much. So always think that the C is more important than the previous note. The second thing is about fingering. When you do, okay, there's two possibilities. The best one for me, the one I use, is to use the second calenza key. You keep the B and you just push the key. I mean, it's a trill fingering. It's very, very practical. It's very easy also. So the second possibility would be third and fourth cadenza key, which is a little bit on the flat side, but easier to come out. So just practice both for 1 week and just choose after which one is the best for you. But both are very good. It's so fast anyway. Intonation is not the most important parameter here, but fluidity and legato is definitely very important. So just choose the one you prefer. Okay, thank you very much. So another fingering about, okay, there's two possibilities also. You can just do this to do C sharp, D sharp, okay? Of course it's very out of tune, but it's quite fast. So normally we don't hear so much that it's on the flat side. But it's very practical and very easy. The second possibility is to use key number 10, the key of the major register A. It's very good in tune, it's very easy, you just need to get a good synchronization and to practice it. It's up to you. Try both solutions and then you will manage it very easily. Okay. And just at the end, just be careful with your key number 4. If you put it on the C sharp, of course it will be too high. So just be very careful about that. Then the next section is interesting because you can experiment many fingerings, especially in this place. I don't know if you saw it, but I was using here the absolute open D fingering with no fingers, okay? The tip is to make it very soft, very pianissimo, and not to bite, okay? And then you can do something very smooth, very easy, just doing this open fingering. The second possibility would be second cadenza fingering, like C with second cadenza. very easy also. It's good to practice both, and like always, after 1 week of practice, you decide which one is the most comfortable for you. But then you will be able to make it very pianissimo, very smooth, and then you can make a nice direction to the end of the bar. And then, pianissimo. I want the biggest contrast ever. Okay, with a very soft, little bit windy sound as you want, but something very different in the color and in the dynamic. Good. Let's go to the favorite passage of everyone now. Nice, very good. I mean, the first thing I would like to say is it's maybe a little bit too loud. I mean, it's written 3P, pianissimo by the composer, and he knows exactly what he wants. So it should be a ghost accompaniment behind the orchestra. So don't overblow, don't play too loud, be very smooth and open, okay? And then your fingers will be able to move faster. That's very important. And the second very important thing is about raising the fingers. What I see is you raise your fingers way too much, okay? If you raise too much your fingers, you lose time, you lose energy, and you lose precision, okay? So like when you practice your scales, you should always stay very close from the clarinets, like 2 centimeters maximum above the clarinet, and don't push the keys too much. Be very gentle. Okay, and let's finish the first part. Very good. So this place, of course, is exactly like the beginning. So same problems, same solutions, I would say. So don't forget to hold your top notes. Don't make accents after the slurs, and be very careful about your intonation on the low F sharp. Good. Let's go to the cadenza now. Okay, very good. The first thing is look very carefully at what the composer wrote. He put in tempo at the beginning. Okay? So this cadenza for the moment is not free. Okay? It's absolutely strictly in tempo. It's also very strict about dynamics and articulations. So if you look carefully, the staccato is a little bit shorter than what you did. And to manage this very short staccato in the low register, you should maybe experiment to put your tongue a little bit below, I would say like 6 millimeters from the tip, just for this. I mean, normally it's always the tip of the tongue on the tip of the rib, but in that very special case, in the low register, when you want to get a lot of precision, it's sometimes interesting to put the tongue a little bit lower. Like this. Okay, short, light, and not too loud, and everything in tempo. And the same is, and the rest is the same. And then you get this huge ritardendo. But before, it's absolutely in tempo. So don't make an accelerando like you did. It's not what the composer wanted. Good. Let's talk about this very big scale now. The first thing, in my opinion, is to organize it. I'm personally putting a lot of rhythms inside. I think everything in 4, group of 4. Like this. Of course, not making accents when I play, but in my head, I think about these subdivisions. That's very important. And second thing is you are going into the low register, so it's sounding a little bit less. So don't play maybe 3 F immediately, just 1 F is enough, but then you can make a big crescendo to the low register. And the next scale, if you look carefully, it's written twice slower, okay? And you play it so fast, okay? It's a difficult passage in addition, so I think don't take any risk and just do the rhythm written. That's it. Of course you can be a little bit smooth. It's a cadenza. It's written meno vivo, so slower, but at least it should be twice slower than the previous scale. So think about that. Let's go. Okay, very nice. I like it very much. The grace notes are very clear. I can hear all the notes. It's very smooth. It's bravo, very good. The only detail I would maybe mention is about tempo. It's written in tempo, ma a piacere. So it's free, but around the normal tempo, which is 120, 124. Okay, so it's absolutely fine to start a little bit slower, a piacere, but at least in one point of the phrase, you should reach the tempo. Okay, so maybe think about that to be maybe a little bit faster in the middle of the phrases, just to refresh and remember the original tempo. Very good. Let's continue. I don't hear all the notes, and not the good notes. So this passage is tricky, of course. So if you want to facilitate your life, don't start too late. It's just almost impossible. So always try to start a little bit earlier. It will be much faster. And the most important thing is put more air when you go in the low register. Because if you don't blow, we will never hear the good notes correctly. Okay? So I want to hear everything. Okay? Okay? And try to stay as much in tempo as possible. But the most important is be clean, be very clear. So don't go too fast in the fast groups. Okay? Okay, that section was very, very good. I was just not very happy about intonation on the low F sharp. It was too long, if you look carefully, it's accent with point, so accent light and short. But if you play fortissimo on a low F like this, you should be a little bit smaller and maybe not overblow. If not, it's going to be really flat. Okay, so try to hold the embouchure, that's very important. Very good. Okay, nice. The only thing is, I don't hear all the notes. This passage is not tremolo, like a trill, free trill. Not at all. It's everything in measure. Let's see, everything very straight and very clear. So you have to practice very, very slow, doing the good amount of notes and repetitions. Okay, and then you can raise the tempo a little bit. But if you are too fast, it will be complicated to be absolutely precise. This place is not free. You have to respect absolutely the numbers of notes written by the composer. So it's not a free tremolo, remember that. Okay, it's a pity I don't see exactly your fingerings here because it's hidden behind the music score. But I just give you my personal fingerings. So of course here it's fork fingering, like this. Okay, very easy. Then, re, fa, re, fa, re, fa, re, fa, re. You have two solutions. You can make the normal one, but sometimes it's difficult for synchronization to synchronize first and third fingers. So a very good solution is to make the tremolo is the third finger only. It's very easy and I guess maybe easier to synchronize. And then when you reach sol, si, sol, si, sol, fa, la, fa, la, fa, you can use the first cadenza key. It's very, very easy. Okay? The only thing is so easy you shouldn't rush. But think about that. Practice it. Wow, nice, very good. This place is always tricky. So, beautiful, beautiful performance here. I mean, it's a maximum tempo. Please do not go faster, okay? My only recommendation would be maybe to make a little bit more accents when you switch from 4 to 3. It's just a tiny thing, but if you think in 3, making small accents like this, it will give a feeling of accelerando to the public, which is nice because you can give this feeling without doing the accelerando and without taking some excessive risk. So think about that. But the tempo is very nice, not faster. Just think about this articulation in your head. It will be helpful. But bravo, very, very well done. Okay, let's go to the coda now. Nice, bravo. I don't have so much to say about this coda. It's very well done. The first thing is maybe about dynamic. Exactly like the second part we talked a few minutes before. This place is accompaniment. The orchestra or the piano is doing all the thematic material. So we have to be accompaniment, we have to be very soft, we have to be behind. So I guess your dynamic was a little bit too much. Okay, so maybe one dynamic less would be perfect, and with a very soft sound, especially when you go in the high register. Don't force, don't be aggressive. And even when you sing, try to get this very soft attitude. I was just wondering why you didn't do the pianissimo. I mean, this place should be a surprise. I mean, it's less than before, and you are just alone. So you don't have to play so loud, and you don't have to make this kind of crescendo you did. Try to keep this very soft and enigmatic dynamic, which is very interesting here. Okay? And for the very last phrase, which is very tricky. Doesn't sound like when you don't know anything about clarinet, but it's always tricky. And it was rushing too much. It was rushing because you are always too early on the third note. All these third notes are a little bit too early. So you should always try to think about a separation in your head. Okay. And try, of course, to work on it very slowly with the metronome and raise the tempo little by little. But don't be too excited here. I know it's almost finished, but we have to take time. If we don't take time, it's going to be tricky for the synchronization. Okay, I guess that's it for this first movement. So first I would like to say bravo, because it's very good already. And with all the details and tips and recommendations I did today, I'm sure you can just go to the next level and make it even more interesting musically, with even more personality, and also even more clean in some points and stable. And of course, never forget to respect everything which is written by the composer, because there's so many informations. You can trust him. Everything is right, everything is accurate, so don't worry about that. So I wish you all the best, and take care, and see you soon maybe. Bye bye.
バルデリュ先生のなんか演奏っていつもこう楽そうに吹くなっていうイメージがあって、その楽に吹けるっていうことがどういうことなのかっていうのをちょっと知りたくってフランセを選んだんですけど、なんかたびたび結構おっしゃってたと思うんですけど、その根本的な演奏の方法というか楽器の吹き方というか、そういうことがそもそもできてて、でその楽譜通りにちゃんと吹けばこの曲は大丈夫みたいなアプローチがすごい多かったので、なんかそのバルデリ先生のその作曲の方、フランセに対する敬意とか、なんかそういう楽譜通りに吹くっていうのは本当に楽譜通り吹くってことじゃなくて、お客さんにどういう風に聞こえるのかっていうことをこうアプローチしているっていうことで、本当にこの曲を見ていただけてよかったなって思いました。なんかこんなに長く返してくださると思ってなかったので、まずそこにすごくありがたいなと思ったんですけど、そうですね、なんか結構動画でもいろいろできるんだなっていうのは思いました。直接お会いしてないけど指のこととか さっき言ったようなこととかすごいよく伝わってきたので、動画の交換のマスタークラスもすごい有意義なものだなと思いました。始めたのは小学校の何年生だ 4年ぐらいの時に始めて、小学校で吹奏楽団がある学校だったので、面白いかなと思って始めました。私は芸大の大学院の1年で次2年生になるんですけど、ちょっと研究というか勉学と並行していろいろ演奏もしているんですけど、すごい興味があるというか好きだなって思うのは、作曲家の友達とかからその新曲のこと頼まれたりとか、あと今年初めて即興演奏っていうのをちょっと授業を取ってやってみたんですけど、すっごく奥が深くて面白くって、そういうクラシック、王道のクラシックなんて言うんだろうじゃない部分もすごく興味があります。自分が思った通りに、吹けると楽しい楽器なんて言うんだろう、自分の体の一部みたいに吹ける瞬間がもうほとんどないけど、たまにあるとすごくいいというか、そういうふうに自分とシンクロしてくれるありがたい楽器だなって思ってます。そうですね。さっきも言ったんですけど、私がすごい今興味があるのが、割と現代作曲家のアプローチみたいにすごい興味があるので、どっちかっていうとそういうものってちょっと苦手な方は苦手だと思うんですよ。結構とっつきにくいという感じがすると思うので、そういう新しい奏法とか新しいその音楽へのアプローチとか、電子音楽と組み合わせることとか、いろいろ抵抗があるかもしれない新しい取り組みみたいなものをもっと広く、理解できるといいかなって思います。